I got this.
What makes a hunter great? Skill? Weapon choice? Perhaps being a North American vice president? Really, it's all about the mochi you had for breakfast and how well dressed your cat is.
Yo, fit. Is mid.
Monster Hunter Rise is a third-person action-adventure game where you hunt monsters. It's very anime, borderline esoteric, and one of the best arguments for why we should commit genocide against trees. A game less about button mashing and more about knowing your enemy and knowing your gigantic anime sword. Now, I've played most of the good FromSoft games, so jumping into this, I was incredibly confused. I'm using the weeaboo sword, why aren't you bleeding? This game is hard, but not because of cheap tricks. It's hard because you have to memorize more obscure knowledge than your average Evo player. Being a hunter isn't about getting off a single devastating attack. You don't win because you can outpunch Cthulhu, you win because you have a brain. In theory, anyway. I don't know you personally. You wear the beast down over time, using every trick and tool at your disposal to break them down little by little. Or you can just snort coffee grounds and play dual blades, but that's beside the point. And you are not alone in your quest to kill them all. You're joined by a palico, the living embodiment of everything great about cats. Smart, independent, and prized for its skill in magic. And a palamute. It's a dog.
I'm a duck.
You start your quest in vitro, otherwise known as character creation. It's a pretty in-depth system. For the face, anyway. You can't change your body proportions. And I'm pretty sure this slider is just here for emotional support. And you better be happy with said face, because anything beyond hair and makeup is locked behind a paywall after the initial setup. Because Capcom. Seriously, why did I have to pay $3 to lose my Y chromosome? I can do that in real life just by eating BANG. You are Japanese. For the first time in a franchise made in Japan. For 17 years. You live a quiet life in fantasy Tohoku, just sitting around eating fish all day and preparing for the regularly scheduled Armageddon, about to destroy everything you love under a tide of angry kaiju. You are a hunter of monsters. The Horde is coming, and it's your job to act as border patrol, American style. Before you can become Teddy Roosevelt reborn, however, you start off getting bullied by this ninja, your tutor. Your tutor. I hate him for reasons I can't explain, but I think it has to do with repressed trauma. But once you're done taking lessons from Chip and Dale Naruto, you can actually enjoy the slaughter in the massive hunting grounds. It would be a disservice to call Rise open world, as these maps were designed with intent and are actually good. They're more like 5 discrete open instances. The hunt will take you from the desert but cold, My Neighbor Totoro, Mexico according to Hollywood, and London if we all do our part and regularly incinerate polystyrene. The maps are just the right size to make exploring feel worthwhile, but not so large as to make you want to uninstall your spinal cord every time you need to backtrack. It only takes a few minutes to cross the map end to end, but it has so many layers to it that you could explore it for hours. And you do well too. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from just going for the biggest bugger on the block and busting it down like a quirked up white kid, but it tends to go better if you prepare first. The maps are covered with crafting materials, some of which are still in the bone, but the main appeal are the balloon-shaped hummingbirds who want to spit in your mouth. Each time they do, you get stronger. It's science. And there are secrets in each map too, but Elden Ring this is not, thank God. Now, you might have looked at the environments and been worried about how much verticality there is, as in previous Monster Hunter games, they have been rather scarce with their upwards mobility. Seriously, a pole vault on one weapon was a big deal back in the day. The Monster Hunter fanbase is not exactly spoiled for choice. But now the people of this world have figured out how to subjugate more than just the cats. With the new wirebug system, patent pending, you can jump, dash, swing, hang, zip, zoom, and wall run. And as for horizontal movement, your dog is far more useful than the real article could ever hope to be. You can now mount your dog and turn the game into furry Mario Kart. I'm not sure if I'm more impressed the devs made such a radical change or just mad that it took them about 17 years to give us something so basic. But let's move on to the real meat of the game. No, not the actual in-game meat. Look, that's not what I'm talking. It's the combat. Combat is the meat. The Monster Hunter series is best known for its unique combat system where a 2-ton chunk of iron is treated as possessing actual inertia. There are a lot of weapons to choose from. Each weapon falls into one of the 3 categories of Mohel, Trepannor, or GP. Moels attack the rear, Trepaners give wetware new cooling vectors, and GP can do either half as well, with the further distinction of damage being either sharp or blunt. Blunt being better at stunning, and sharp being better for field amputations. I'm not an expert in, well, any of them, and I take that as a point of pride. If I wanted a second job, I would just get a second job. But as for how each weapon plays, Greatsword, a GP weapon simply because you're lucky to land a hit at all. Someone asked you if God could make something so big even he couldn't move it. You said he did, and that the oversized wiffle bat on your back was it. At which point you were promptly struck by lightning. If you use this weapon, it's either because you prefer your numbers chunky, or you enjoy playing mind games against the computer, which has no mind. It has one of the highest damage outputs if you know what you're doing. Which you probably don't, but just remember that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and about 90% of the ones you do. Sword and Shield, a GP weapon somehow even less believable than any of this anime bullshit. You took a weapon exclusively designed for fighting another human with another sword and shield and thought, yes, this butter knife and potlet will be perfect against lorry-sized scalies with tank armor for skin and napalm for blood. And somehow it works. You can poke, smash, slice, and do drugs all with your hands full. Best advice you can get for this weapon is that your shield is not a shield. It's a wok-shaped boxing glove. You can do anything from circumcision to concussion. Perfect for the person who sucks at positioning, as now you can just claim you're being adaptable. Longsword, a Moels weapon and possibly the most anime thing in a franchise which is already anime out the ass. Your kit is built around keeping your sword happy. This is represented by the spirit gauge, which you fill by whacking shit. You can use this gauge to perform a Mall Ninja combo which upgrades your sword, going from normie, average Naruto fan, blade studier, and finally, I am the storm that is approaching! You thrive on a rhythm of normal attacks, ie jutsus, and spirit slashes. Great for weebs seeking harmony with the universe through violent extermination. The Hammer, a Trepaner's weapon that is, well, the hammer. It does one thing and one thing very well. Concussions. You have one job. Inflict hemorrhagic stroke. Arguably the best stun weapon in the game. Or it would be, if not for the hunting horn, a straight up better version of the hammer, which is a point of immense consternation to the old guard. See, back in the day when Monster Hunter was a game for the Japanese and Westerners who didn't wear deodorant exclusively, the hunting horn was just a longer hammer that was worse in just about every single way. It was a support weapon that existed purely for its buffs, and to balance it out so that it didn't take the place of the hammer, its attacks all were very slow and oftentimes just kinda weak. It was not good. However, now it's viable, fun, and sparked the biggest backlash against something everyone wanted from day one. When you use this weapon, you're no longer the bog standard stock shonen character. You are a magical breakdancing Scottish who buffs the party with the soothing melody of weaponized bagpipes. And unlike a real instrument, using it takes neither skill nor talent. Play the same note twice, give your team a buff. Play all three notes together, get a super move. You really don't have to think this over too much. Just swing the strings until it stings. Dual blades are, well, I'm not exactly sure where the target on the monster is, but whatever it is will be covered in more cuts than a river dolphin in about 10 seconds. This is a weapon for button mashers, and is pure, probably the easiest weapon to use. You just enter demon mode and rub your appendages on the controller. If you want to make some money on the side, you could just use your feet and sell the footage on the internet. It's not that I won't judge you. I'm just jealous that my lagomorph limbs are too big to work the buttons. The insect glaive is a weapon in two parts, the glaive and the insect. Before any fight, you send out your kinsect. These puns are giving me a kidney stone. You should send out your kinsect to suck the humors out of the beast. Just 3 of them though. Black bile was laid off for inappropriate crying fits. Blood comes from the head and makes you hit harder. Phlegm is just cocaine and it comes from the limbs. Yellow bile makes you harder to knock down. It comes from the heart. Literally. You can also pole vault and become 8-bit McDuck as the monster becomes your personal trampoline park. Bow guns are for gaijin who only play the most hardcore of Western games. being either heavy for single-shot burst damage or light for the Middle Ages equivalent of an M60. They are also largely dependent on what ammo you run for determining your success. Your basic ammo is unlimited, but it's roughly equivalent to throwing a .22 bullet with your bare hands. Each ammo type comes with a secondary effect and has an ideal range, which you can check by your aiming reticle's color. If it's orange, you're in the sweet spot. If it's yellow, you're either too close or too far. Figure it out yourself. And if it says out of range, it's out of range. You can read, right?
No.
The bowgun is great if you can afford the ammo. So get prepared for that authentic veteran experience of coming home from severe trauma, both physical and mental, and right into crippling debt. Why are you doing this to me? I'm the only thing between you and the golden chicken horde, and you are charging me money to save your life? Bows and arrows are, well, bows and arrows. Just like bowguns, your aiming reticle indicates the ideal range. Their effectiveness is heavily based on arrow coatings, basically Asda brand ammo types. You can attach jet engines, coat them in Polish food, or read the monster a bedtime story. Switch axe is a mole's weapon, but also a sword. It's all about charging up the sword with the axe, charging up the damage with the sword, and charging up once again for a final. But maybe this just isn't scratching your ADHD. Are you the type who needs entire college textbooks worth of guides on how to play well? Do you hate doing anything more passive than a liver transplant? Then the Charge Blade might be right for you. An unholy hybrid of sword and shield, switch axe and greatsword, all made by an engineer high off their mind on crack. It's one hell of a weapon. It's just that for the life of me, I cannot explain it to anyone else. Last time I tried, they filed a restraining order. It's a gambler's weapon, but it's built for the blackjack high roller, not the roulette tweaker. Luck is a factor for all but the most skilled, and when you bottom out hard. But if you can get everything lined up just right, it is the most devastating and flashy weapon in the game. But maybe you want all the style, but with none of the IQ requirements. To engage in a little bit of that Sigma male grind set. Well, then the fittingly phallic weapon for you would be the gun lance. The gun lance user does not care about damage numbers or special rolls. The gun lance is pure. It's a stupid and arguably underpowered weapon made up almost entirely of style over substance, and you are the true alpha for using it. Or you would be, if not for the concept of alpha wolves being completely fabricated. You sheep, I guess? Now the lance is... Now this is great and all, but you are still just a human evolved in a world designed from the ground up to exterminate you, but still pretty average for anyone above 5'11". Your muscles, bones, and skin all have hard limits. When muscle density hits its limit, it's time to stop hitting the gym and start robbing the local leather shop. Unlike in real life, you don't level up after depopulating the wildlife. This is a world where streetwear is indicative of power level. Natty gains? Weak peasant shit. Real royalty gets their power from Hugo Boss. You're a subsistence hunter after all. Everything you kill, you skin, and you wear it as a funny hat. Don't forget too that part of the essential swagger of being a hunter is to eat like royalty. So before committing badger persecution and dolphin unsafe fishing, remember to eat enough rice balls to feed the entire continent of South America. Lovingly mixed into each ball is enough pre-workout mix to keep your average lifter dry scooping for about half a workout. This is also a franchise best known for its multiplayer, and it's still really good. I don't have anyone who is interested in becoming a Disney villain with me, but playing with strangers has actually been really fun, as long as you can find a hunt, that is. I'm not at max level, nor will I likely ever be, so sometimes it can be hard to find a hunting party on weeknights. And there's an entire set of single-player only quests too. Nothing's locked behind having someone to play with, so even if you're forever alone, the game's still a good shake. But what good is all this stick without something to whack? And as for the monsters in this game, we got turtle gators, umbrella birds,
It's a weird fucking stray cat!
pokey bait, catfish dragons, and many of the old favorites too. The only things I have to complain about, aside from Capcom's awful DLC policy, is that you want to turn off cloud saves and back up your save file on PC. This is an Elden Ring, thank God. But don't be surprised if you crash and end up with your data corrupted. It's also the easiest Monster Hunter game, but again, I have a job. It's still decently challenging, just not...
What about the rampages? Isn't that the selling point of the game?
We do not talk about the rampages. I give it an objective value out of opinions with no quantifiable worth. Go play it. It's usually half off on key reseller sites, or you could just buy a Switch cartridge used if you don't mind the lower frame rate. Now do your local Asian village a favor and depopulate the local wildlife. Climate change and mass extinction aren't theories, they're a goal, and together we can make them a reality. Have a good night.